You've narrowed it down to 2 assisted living communities, but you're leaning toward one. You want to make sure your dad's money lasts as long as possible, so you're also concerned about cost. Everything looks about the same, so you make your decision and set the move-in date. Then, all of a sudden, the cost goes up $1,000 a month. I'm your host, Valerie Lynn, and this week we're looking at pricing in assisted living. Welcome to Desperately Seeking Senior Living, a podcast for sons, daughters, grandkids, and spouses who suddenly find themselves tangled in the search for senior living and care. If you like today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and check out our doable download in today's show notes for a printable summary of the show and a bonus tip from our guest. You're listening to our doable tips, short answers to your questions. Don't see your question listed? Send us a note. Then don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an answer. Hi, and welcome to the show. If you've been through the search for senior living, chances are the pricing got confusing. And if you haven't been through this yet, you'll also want to check out our episode, Can You Compare the Cost of Senior Living Apples to Apples? Because honestly, you can't. We have had a few episodes about cost, but I really wanted to focus on the assisted living pricing structure and why it's so hard to get that final price and why that final price isn't always so final. But before we jump into that, I want to talk about what it's like to actually be on the search for senior living. And this might sound familiar to you. When I'm working with a family, there are usually many things going on at once. There's a reason we're working together. Sometimes a family is providing the care and getting really burnt out. Because let's face it, caregiving is one of the hardest jobs. Or maybe there's a medical situation or another event of some sort, like a fall, that's causing this search for senior living to happen right now. And mom or dad are usually not super excited about it. Change is hard. And this just adds another layer to the process and the emotions. This move comes with so many varied emotions. And the last thing most have patience for is trying to figure out why it's so hard to figure out pricing. So let's take a look at the different ways communities calculate their pricing. We're going to start with rent, which should be the easy one, right? Rent is most often calculated based on square footage and location within the community. If it's a bigger apartment, it'll cost more. Close to the elevator, have a view, close to the dining room, it's probably going to cost you more. This cost will either be presented as a monthly fee or as a daily rate. And even if you don't like math like me, that all sounds pretty simple, right? Well, not so fast. Because some communities that offer both independent and assisted living have different rent prices based on whether a resident is receiving care or not. Remember that family who chose a community only to find out that the cost went up $1,000 per month? Well, that's exactly what happened to them. The community initially quoted them the independent living price, but when they found out that their mom needed care services, the rent for the apartment went up $1,000 per month. That's for the same apartment and completely separate from the care costs. So let's talk about care costs. Care costs also vary from community to community. Some offer levels of care. Some have a la carte, and some have a point system. It's no wonder it can be hard to understand, especially if you end up touring more than one community and are presented with these different cost structures. And on top of all that, they will have no way to tell you the exact cost of care. And I know you really want them to be able to tell you, but I promise you it is better this way. You could be forgetting a diagnosis. You could be forgetting a medication that just happens to be a narcotic. And if they quote you a price and then they discover these things after the assessment, you will have done all your budgeting on the wrong amount. You might even be upset with the community because it seems like they've changed their price. So, as hard as it is, you really should wait to get that final pricing after they've done an assessment. And I'll put a link in show notes to our episode that talks about that assessment. The basic tenet of care cost is time. Whether it's presented in level form or points, even a la carte usually has different pricing for the same service. For example, your mom feels unsafe when showering, so she just wants someone to be there and make sure everything's okay. That's most likely going to be the lowest price for showering. But if in the future she needs someone to actually help her physically with the shower, that price is going to go up. It's all about the time it takes a staff member to complete the care task. Which brings us to another point about care cost. Cost can start at one price, and as the community provides the care, they may uncover more needs. Your mom or your dad may ask for more things, and those tasks start taking more time. So you may actually see an increase in the first 30 days. This is really hard for families to understand. Sometimes they get a little upset about this too, because let's face it, cost going up quickly when you're trying to budget isn't fun. So try to keep in mind that until the staff actually starts providing the care, it can be tricky estimating those costs. Finally, there are the community fees and other charges such as pet fees and second person fees. Some communities include cable and some don't. Want a landline? That's usually extra. Remember, these communities are businesses. I've said it before, but it's hard sometimes to think of healthcare this way. But each of these companies may not only have a different way of presenting their costs, but they will vary in pricing and negotiating policies. That's right, I said negotiating. There are sometimes fees that can be negotiated, and I'll put a link to that episode in show notes as well. If this is your journey right now, or you know it will be soon, take a deep breath. You're facing an industry that you most likely aren't familiar with at all. It's not going to be easy, but there are so many people who want to help. And hopefully, this episode makes your journey a little more doable. Today's episode is brought to you by ClearPath Senior Living Solutions. ClearPath helps families find assisted living, memory care, and other resources. Find our contact information in today's show notes. Check out this episode's doable download in show notes for details, including industry terms and definitions we discussed, as well as a bonus tip from our guest. Have questions or your own tips to share? Leave us a message. We'd love to hear from you. And until next time, make it doable.